Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brothers Take, the podcast where nerdy brothers get together each and every week, usually to talk gaming, but sometimes to talk about other topics too. And in this week's episode, we're going to be doing just that. My name is Kris. I'm joined once again by my brother Eric.
Hello.
And in this week's episode, we are back in the room to talk mythology. And
Boom.
mythology is kind of the basis of everything that we ever talk about anyway. Every single game, every single movie, every single TV show that we've ever talked about is about building mythology, building on mythology, adaptations of previous mythology, retellings of old myths. And we are huge lovers of storytelling in every format and grew up loving mythology, myths, still love myths. If you look at like the superhero genre today is sort of the modern mythical heroes
Mm.
of the world, but it's all basically retellings of the old classics, the old myths, the creation stories, stories of revenge, of justice, and all of those things. And so for this week's episode, it's actually Eric who pitched it, and when we get past the intro, he'll explain why. He'll explain why this topic has come up. But we're going to talk about whether or not mythology, certainly classic mythology, can it be adapted to the big screen? There's many mediums in which it can be adapted, books, graphic novels, video games in some cases too, maybe TV shows. Can it be adapted successfully to a movie? What would it take to do that? Is there good examples of that? Is there bad examples of that? And bearing in mind that such a big movie coming next year is, of course, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, which we will also talk about in terms of our anticipation levels for that, what we want from it, what we don't want from it. And that's one of the things that's kind of brought up this conversation, as well as something else, which we will get into. And of course, we want you to jump in on this conversation as well. If you're a huge fan of classic mythology, Greek, Norse, Egyptian, whatever it is, do get in touch to let us know. Share your own thoughts on the topic as we get further into it. It'll make more sense when we get into it. It's kind of hard to summarize it in like one sentence because it's broad. It's a broad topic, but we are going to get into it. But yeah, if you enjoy this conversation, you want to jump into, if you're watching YouTube, jump down in the comments, share your thoughts. If you enjoy this episode, please do give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell for all future content. To those who listen to us on audio platforms, you can touch base with social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X at The Brothers Take. Again, to give your take on whether or not mythology can be adapted to the big screen or whether it works better in the sort of written format. But without further ado, let's talk mythology. So, Eric,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of, for these next two episodes, we're being a bit experimental.
We are. Yeah.
We're being
We're
a
going very
bit,
different.
we're going very different. And you'll see next week what the next one is. But we kind of chose a topic each, and they're kind of out of left field. They're not necessarily driven by anything that's like very, very current.
Mm.
And they're not necessarily what everyone else is specifically talking about. And so it's experimental. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But it's us kind of talking about stuff that we really wanted to talk about. And Eric was the one that pitched this one, which I was like, I had kind of asked Eric, pitch something that you want to talk about. And then he pitched this, and I was like, I wasn't expecting this.
Mm.
Cool, though, cool. Like, this is like, because again, like, we could do another, oh, like, very loosely talking about video games, like, oh, what's your favorite video game thing, or whatever, And it's like, we've done loads of those. Let's get out of our comfort zone and let's do something different. But something obviously brought this on for you, Eric. So what was it that brought this topic on for you?
Yeah, so roughly about 6 months ago, our sister-in-law, Pagan, told us about this musical called Epic. Epic the
Mm,
musical. Which I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's nice that's good and glad you enjoyed that, Pagan. But of course, I hear musical and I'm thinking the idea everyone gets out into the streets and starts dancing along, and then at one point there's a spotlight on the main character and they have to do their really operatic music, and it's all very campy. which is fair enough. That's a lot of musicals like that. And not every musical obviously is like that, but they all have like that style, and you're like, okay, fair enough. Not really for me, but I figured, you know what, Pagan went on about this, and I just kind of figured, you know what, let's watch something that she recommended. Because usually I'm wanting her to experience things I recommend. So I was like, I'll give this thing a go. It popped in my head. I said to watch it.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah. So epic musical, and there was all animatics done. So like a bunch of
Yeah.
people did rough drawings. If people don't know what animatics are, they're like essentially storyboards. There's rough drawings that people do for movies, and then you screenshot it, and then you kind of just rough edit. So it's not very smooth or clean. But anyway, so it's all them put together. It's the story of Odysseus and his journey home, and it had me hooked from the moment it started, which was him and the horse, and he's talking
Yes.
to the troops and the plan and all that sort of stuff. It had me hooked from there because I was like, oh, this is not the campy musicals that I'd be used to seeing if I ever
Yeah.
see them.
Yeah.
This was more like I'd almost I actually messaged one of my friends to be like, you should watch this. This is the best Disney movie I've seen in ages.
Right, right,
And
right,
it's
right.
not even Disney.
Yeah.
Because its song quality was like the fucking was up there, I think, with like, Colors of the Leaf, Colors of the Wind, is that what it is?
Yes, yeah.
Colors of the Wind or
Yep.
Hellfire and Make a Man Out of You and all that sort of stuff that is like it's like old school Disney songs that I think are just very lost nowadays. The
Yeah.
fucking music was savage. And then it really helps to have the animatics to go with the story.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And it's good to
'Cause-
go in knowing that it's not like an animated feature. It is
no.
just like, and I think it's just fans that were just
Oh
passionate
yes,
about.
it was just
Like it
fans.
was an audio musical, as far as I know, that
It's
just
on
went to like
Spotify. Yeah, yeah.
Spotify and all that kind of stuff. There's a few of those in the works, and there's people getting into those kind of things now, like creating. It's like I don't have the budget to create an actual Broadway musical and hire the
Mm,
actors and get the sets and all that, but I have the skills to put together just the music,
mm.
and I want to, and and then people can do stuff with it afterwards. It's really cool seeing that. So I've only seen literally like half the first half hour of this, and it's
Mm.
just because I had a time constraint before we had to actually get to recording. But yeah, no, it is very good, and it does scream Disney. If especially like that first song did remind me of "Let's Make a Man Out of You." Like it had that kind of vibe and energy,
Yeah,
and like so I see exactly why it would gel. It's all well written. It's catchy. It's
very
um,
catchy. Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
very like digestible in the way that it's told as well. Like
Mm.
whether you had the animatics or not, and the animatics are cool, and people put a lot of work into them. But whether you had them or not, um, the story is being very well told. You would know what's going on.
Yes, and you do have the sound effects and all that sort of stuff. Like that's not all added in. So when
Yeah.
when they jump out of the horse to attack the inside of Troy, and you have all the soldiers screaming, that is in the actual songs I was listening to. Because I kind of decided today as well, what's it like to listen to it without the animatics. So yeah, a
Yes.
lot of the sound effects are there. Like if there's ever like the waves crashing or whatever, uh,
Yeah.
you know, that sound effect is there. So a lot of the sound effects are in it to kind of help, which also helped, I suppose, the fans on deciding what to draw.
That's the kind of thing you can listen to then, like when you're out for a walk, when you're at the gym, when you're like you don't have to just wait till you're at home watching it. Like you can listen to it anywhere you go.
Yeah, but a part of me is also like I kind of wouldn't mind this being a
Like
not too
someone turning
dis.
into a film. It has millions of views, by the way.
Oh, it
Like
does.
it's
Like
it's got a huge fan base and following.
yeah. So like I don't want to completely dismiss the work of everyone because all the animat and I've seen plenty of people do animatics for lots of different things, and so it's again one of those things that you commonly say to me off podcast, which is it's really annoying how talented people are.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they are.
So so I don't want to like completely dismiss it, but it'd be lovely to see it with a more polished animation style and a much more coherent
And
because
would you
you
like it to be an animated movie as opposed to a actual live musical show?
I think it's really hard to do that
Hmm?
live.
Yeah, but at the same, like, I mean,
It'd be impressive as fuck, but
no, but some. I went to see The Lion King, live over in like one of the theaters in London,
Mm,
and like I think based on the theater that we've seen, and we've seen great theater, right?
mm.
But you haven't seen amazing theater.
Right. Okay.
Some theater shows what they pull off in terms of because they have the ability to pull it off. Like the stages are massive. So the
Mm,
sets they bring on are huge. And even like the stage for the Lion King, like the stage itself rotated at times. It changed shapes. Like it was fucking incredible. And what they were able to bring out, and they had puppetry, and they had
mm.
wire work during the show. They had special effects. Like some of them, are like you should see even like the documentary for not it's not a musical, but the documentary for the Stranger Things show on Netflix. So there's a Stranger Things theater show called The First Shadow, which is all about Victor Creel when he's younger.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and it's like the Duffer Brothers were in touch to make sure that the lore is correct, but other than that, they were allowed to kind of do what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And the like effects and shit that they're pulling off on stage that they have to try pull off live every single night in front of
Yeah.
people is just like you're like holy shit, like there is some amazing things that can be pulled off in theaters. So
Like no,
I just
like
like would you want to see it that way, or would you prefer it as an animated movie?
I don't mind either way,
Mm.
but going back to another movie that I kind of got a little obsessed with, called K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah.
If that was a play, you know what I mean, or just like a band came out and they're doing songs like, there's a market, but I don't think it would exceed the market, if
Sure,
that
okay.
makes sense. So as a theater, right? If it was
Mm.
done theater, which I think they have done live performances, but
Wow, really? Wow.
on small stages, just kind of more like a band type thing.
Yes, yeah.
So
And
it's like
probably just like a select amount of songs from it too, not probably not the whole thing.
probably not the whole thing, because the whole thing is over 2 hours. So as like a big kind of Broadway style thing, I would
Hmm.
go see that, which would probably then be the first musical I've ever sat down to watch.
Yeah.
But on another point where I have told our friend Clara to watch this,
Hmm.
and I told my friend Emer, who's a big Disney fan, and she was the one I was saying this is the best Disney thing I've saw. So the fact that I'm telling other people to watch this, I almost want to get my friends to sit down in front of this. We all have pizzas and drinks, and I want to put this on for them.
All right,
I'm a
okay.
little bit like, it'd be cool as an animated movie on something like a streaming site, because it will reach out to more people.
Yeah, you reckon it's like some people might not get past the animatics, even though they're
Yes.
amazing, even though they're amazing,
Yeah. Like
but
so
they're
I had
also
to.
not a traditional like a finished animated feature. Like,
Right. So, but I have
yeah,
told like the friends I've told to watch it, I did tell them it's animatics, just so that they're
yeah.
aware.
It's an
But
accompaniment. It's a visual, but it's not. This isn't an actual animated feature.
no, no, because again, I don't know if it happened to you in your first half an hour watching it, but like the animation styles will change.
Yeah, like when you get to the Cyclops, he looks one way, and then in the next song, he looks a completely
Okay,
different
so
way.
you've gotten to that bit.
Yeah, within the first half hour. Yeah,
Okay, isn't that design for the Cyclops just
amazing. Yeah, the first
the first
design is
design is the
incredible. The
coolest
second
design?
design is good, like it looks like a standard kind of Cyclops, but the first design is like, oh, that's like a really cool Mordor take on the Cyclops.
That's what I
Eye
was
of
saying.
Sauron kind of shit.
Saturday night,
Yeah,
times of recording.
yeah,
Um, that's what I was saying. But I was like, that design is so fucking cool because it's so out there. You look at it, you go, that's a Cyclops, but you're also like, that is not a Cyclops I've ever seen before,
yeah. I
which is
wonder as well,
crazy.
are many people being introduced to the story of Odysseus through this? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
like okay, so I'm very familiar with the Odyssey in that when I was younger, I had a book.
Is the book is the book might be
It's
upstairs in
in
my
it's
room.
in the house there
It's in
somewhere.
the house somewhere.
It's
Yeah.
a great book in that it was like a it was really like dumbed down for children, which is good. I was a kid, so it was like
Mm,
perfect. But it was a collection of 100 Greek myths,
mm,
and it was all kind of the classics, really. Your Hercules, your Theseus, your Perseus, like all of these kind of characters, and the creation myths with the Titans and stuff, and all told in a like it was the actual myths told, but also in a way that was appropriate for
mm,
children. and the Odyssey was told, but in like small, digestible chapters, as opposed to reading the actual Homer's Odyssey, which is like,
Right.
a huge
It's
epic.
200 pages. It's actually a lot shorter than you think it is compared to a lot of books nowadays.
Oh sure, yeah, yeah, but I just mean as a
Right. Yeah.
kid, and like the way it's written and the content and that kind of stuff. So I'm very very familiar with the Odyssey, but that doesn't mean that everyone is. So it's kind of cool that this might be actually an introduction to people to the
Yeah.
Odyssey and the story of it. And then of course we also have next year Christopher Nolan is adapting the Odyssey
Yeah, weird that this is all coming
into
around at the same time.
into a movie, and I'm curious. I'm excited for it. Like when I first heard it, I was like, never in a million years, if I had to guess what Nolan's next movie was going to
Yeah,
be, would I
wouldn't
have
guess that.
guessed the Odyssey? And it's got a stacked cast, but the question is, can they adapt the Odyssey for the big screen? What would you even want from this? Like
So
the Odyssey is such a great,
it's a fantastic story.
yeah,
It's again, you look at one of those things and go, there's a reason this has lasted this long. Like it has
yeah.
stood the test of time. This kind of story. A lot of the stuff in it is very, you've been there, seen it. Like you
Hmm.
know what I mean. Like Odysseus gets punished for his vanity against Polyphemus. Polyphemus gets punished for his brutality. We've seen that sort of story. People getting punished for their pride or vanity, and then they have to learn a bit of humility and blah 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 blah, and justice and all that.
And that's what myths are all about. Like myths are
Right.
obviously they're
The
not literal events, but they speak to the stories to speak to human truths. You know,
Yeah, kind
yeah.
of. They pretty much always have a moral and stuff like that, and that's why they stand the test of time. Is because it's the long standing truths. But when it comes to Christopher Nolan and the Odyssey,
Mm.
I was talking to Adam about this yesterday at time of recording, and he kind of obviously I'm gonna go see this movie in the cinema
Yeah.
because Christopher Nolan still to this day is one of those few directors that I think makes a movie like no, you need to see this on the big screen.
Hmm.
It's a big special thing. There are a lot of movies that you can watch and kind of go, yeah, I think I get the same experience if I watch that at home.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's a big director. But I kind of Adam disagrees with me on this one. Adam wants him to do his weird, funky time stuff with it.
Oh, in terms of not telling it in the right order, kind
Yeah,
of
or just
stuff, or restructure it, and
he just tells things sometimes in a weird order. Not even just the right order. It's just a
yeah,
weird order. He sometimes tells the
yeah,
story,
yeah.
and I'm a bit like I'd rather he kind of goes back to like the Dark Knight trilogy and just sort of tells it a little bit more linear.
I could see him as to break up the story though. I could see him cutting between the journeys of Odysseus and then his family back on Ithaca.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's how he's going to structure it. I think
Prob-
his family are going to play a big part. My big question is, uh, this is what I'm curious about, and we won't know until maybe we see a trailer. But is he going to lean into fantasy at all,
I
or
don't
is
think.
he going to ground the Odyssey and like take it as a, they told myths, they embellished the story later, but actually it's just a story about a man trying to get home to his family.
Yeah,
So that's my question. Like, will Nolan finally make a fantasy movie,
no,
or
because he
is
doesn't
he
like.
doing a Nolan take on the Odyssey?
I think it's a Nolan take. I think it's going to be very grounded, so we're not going to
Yeah.
have like Scylla. Poseidon's probably not going to show up or anything like that. It is a stacked cast. Yeah, like the probably Telemachus, his son, would probably be in it more because it is played by Tom Holland. You're not getting Tom
Yeah.
Holland and putting him
Like
in
it's
for
gonna
30
be,
minutes.
yeah, like the
So
home stuff is definitely going to play a bigger part.
my prediction really is
Yeah.
that we're going to see Odyssey and Telemachus at the same time because Telemachus leaves Ithaca to go speak to Menelaus to find out does he know where Odysseus is?
Yeah.
And then they kind of both arrive for spoilers for
For
people
the
who haven't
for the myth. We
for
don't
the
know
myth of the
what way the film
Odyssey.
is going to go.
Yeah, so this is my prediction for the film based on my knowledge of the myth is that they're both going to get back to it at the same time for the
Hmm.
final showdown, where then we're going to have really fast cut edits. You know what I mean? Like jumping between the two, rushing. Oh my God, are they going to get there? You're going to have lots of big loud music. We're not going to be able to hear the dialogue. And
Yeah,
then you're going to have, and he's not great at fight scenes, so they're going to have a kind of meh fight scene. And so there's an element of the fact that because I've watched going back to Epic, because I've watched it, I'm like, yeah, no, my level of him doing this story justice has slightly dropped
okay.
because I kind of just don't think. I think it needs to be an epic. I think it needs to be
A fantasy?
a fantasy.
Yeah,
Um, but Christopher Nolan, I just don't think would touch that. So it's just going to be a
yeah,
grounded story, which then is like, what was the to me?
yeah,
What's the point? Adam would say,
yeah.
obviously,
It's
the point.
interesting.
The point is that it's that Christopher Nolan spin. It's like true, but
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's, there is other medium that have touched the Odyssey, and there probably will be more medium in the future that touch the Odyssey,
mm,
and it is that authorship of like, well, like, does Nolan want to make the Odyssey for everyone, or does Nolan want to make the Nolan Odyssey?
yeah, yeah,
If you know what I mean, where it's like,
yeah.
if he does the whole adapting it exactly as it is, it's kind of like I feel like any director would do that though. That's not what I do. Like
Mm.
I don't do Batman and he has Robin as a sidekick and
And
he's a superhero,
Poison Ivy is doing all the
yeah,
plant powers.
like I don't do that. I do a Batman that you're like, oh, I believe that this happened and this
Mm.
can happen and that kind of thing. But I'd be really, I think I would be more excited if it was a fantasy though.
If it
Like I
was a
think
Christopher Nolan fantasy,
yeah,
like
I
yeah,
think I know I'm excited either way. I
yeah.
love the story. I think it's a lot to try and adapt into a film anyway. And to be honest, not to get all the Hobbit on it, right? But to be honest, like even though it skims through it in the story as you're reading it,
Mm.
but it's so much happens and you nearly skim past it too fast. And when you're reading it, it's fine because you embellish a little bit in your mind. But to put it on to film, like it is 10 years of events, roughly.
Roughly.
He spends some of those years on
He
one
spends
island.
7 years on one island, so it's 3 years of all the other shit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
but still,
sorry.
right? Like there's a
Se-
huge time jump and all this kind of stuff.
Technically, he spends 8 years, but 7 on one island and 1 year on another, which means it's 2 years of all the other events. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but there's a lot
But
that
either way,
happens, and I think that you nearly would want to make it at least a two-parter almost. Like I don't know if you can adapt the whole everything that happens in one movie, which makes me wonder. Like I don't know if he is adapting at all. Actually, I think he's gonna like respect the source material, but also it's like I want to get to the heart of the source material. You know?
yeah, well, I think if you ground it, which is what I do expect that these Christopher Nolan do,
Hmm.
I expect them to ground it, and maybe it's like if there's a storm, they think it's Poseidon's wrath, like that idea.
Yeah, and where they
Yeah,
speak about the gods, but you don't see the gods.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's like if you ground it, I
Hmm.
think you can do it
Yeah.
because you're cutting out a lot of the big monsters, right? Which are big event moments in the story.
Yeah. You're
So I
doing
think that
storms and earthquakes and things like that instead.
yeah, and then just the natural event of a whirlpool and maybe a giant serpent, like a giant anaconda attacks them and whatever. Um Now I know Cersei's in it, but of course she can just drug people, because they're taking drugs the whole bloody
Yeah,
time in those
again,
books.
like it could be that when they retell the story, she's told as a witch, but maybe she's not actually a witch. But then, what if he goes for it?
It'd be cool. It'd be
I
cool.
think it'd be really exciting only because it's not what you expect from Nolan. I actually like
No.
so I'm excited either way,
Mm,
right? But the what Nolan normally does is what I'm expecting. So
right.
if it turns out that he goes down the line of like prosthetic creatures or using like because I also think he's not a big one for CGI. He's a practical
No,
effects kind of guy.
yeah.
So if Polyphemus the fucking Cyclops is in this movie, there's a good chance it's a big fucking miniature. That doesn't
Mm.
make sense. A miniature that's been made look big. But like,
Maxature.
the kind of work that was done with the Rancor.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah. But
I
then,
feel like he would do like some serious practical shit, and it would be a very unique movie in his catalog if he really leaned into the mythology. Um,
it would definitely catch me with breath because I definitely wouldn't be expecting that for sure. As you
no,
said, I would not
no,
expect Nolan to do fantasy. I would expect Nolan to ground it and
yeah,
tell the story in such a way where it's like, yeah, as you stated, it's this is actually what happened to Odysseus, but then he's going to embellish the story to make it
yes,
sound more and more exciting for
yeah.
Telemachus, even though Telemachus is like 22 or 23 years old, so it doesn't make sense to. But anyway, uh, that
Yeah,
was
so
actually a kid.
I think he's going to treat it very like another movie, which is an adaptation of a Greek myth, which is Troy.
Right? Yes,
So
sure.
Troy is a movie that not everyone likes. I actually really like Troy.
I think it's
I
one of those
really
things
enjoy it.
because I know that when I studied the Odyssey in school,
Yes.
the subject of classical studies came in after like when I was in like second year, so it wasn't an option for me. So the people behind me got to do the Iliad, which is
Okay.
the story of Troy. So I
Yes.
think if you know the Iliad, you get pissed off with the movie because you're like,
For
they
sure.
left out
Because
that thing and that.
yeah, 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 like it's not a one for one adaptation,
No, no.
and I know that for a fact. Like, but I enjoy it as a movie in its own right.
Hmm.
Even as someone who was, and I thought it was so interesting because like when I, and again, there's got to be different tellings of the myth, retellings of the myth, all that kind of stuff. In the telling of the myth that I was familiar with, it really painted the Trojans as the bad guys and all of the Greeks as the good guys. And the Greeks were going to kind of save Helen, who had been sort of almost kidnapped by the Trojans. That was the
Right.
telling of it, right? So when I saw the movie, I was like, wait a minute, what? Hector's a good guy. Like, it turned the myth around in a way that I thought was really interesting. I was like, Agamemnon's the bad guy? And then when the more I think about it, I go, wait, of course he's the bad guy. He's like a conquering,
Yeah.
maniac kind of a thing. And then actually, and it's more convoluted, and it's like, it's not so much they're the bad guys, they're the good guys. It's just there's two nations at war and people have different agendas and all this kind of stuff. And
Mm.
I quite enjoy the movie. I think the choreography is good, the costuming is good, the music is good.
Mm.
Some of the casting is a bit strange, but one thing that it did do is it didn't outright say uh, that there's no mythology, right? It didn't outright say the gods don't exist. They believe in the gods in it.
Mm.
They talk about the gods a lot. Achilles even claims to have met the gods.
Mm.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
have the whole thing about how he was dipped in, and he has the conversation with that one lady down before he goes to war.
But with his
Kind of
mother, yeah, and there's something about when he's talking to his mother that feels a little bit like he's talking to a goddess. Now he's not, I don't think, because his
no,
mother
and
is a
well,
human.
and they never say that she is, and they never display any kind of magic or anything. So there's no like magical elements in that movie, in
No.
that telling of the myth of Troy. Um, but there's also no straight up denial of it. Like Achilles is only killed after an arrow hits his heel first. Now,
Mm.
I think it's quite clear in the movie that he's just a mortal man, and
Mm.
that was just the first injury, and then the other arrows killed him. But the myth then comes from it that it's like, oh, he could only be killed after you hit his heel. Um, and I feel like the Christopher Nolan's Odyssey will be more like Troy,
Right,
where
yeah.
they talk about the gods, and there is like people say, oh, it's Poseidon that won't let us home and all this kind of stuff. But I don't think Poseidon will actually be in it cast as the villain of the movie or anything like that.
No, no, it's supposed to be, yeah, similar enough to in Troy, actually, which is a good example of probably even what I'd be thinking for Christopher Nolan, except with a little bit more weird timey stuff in the storytelling. But
Mm-hmm.
that idea of like when there was I think the Trojans went out to the horse and they see all the people are dead with the plague and they think, oh, this is Apollo's doing.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
We don't actually know how they died of a plague. There was no mention, but they're just dead with a plague, and so they then think it's Apollo. Yeah, there is that kind of element, I suppose, that they could be real, they might not be real.
We're not saying it's not, but we're not also not including them as actual characters in the movie in
Mm.
the way that a movie like Immortals does, where the
Well,
Greek gods are all played by that. Now, here is a terrible adaptation of a Greek myth. That one really annoyed me. So, Troy, I like. It's not a 100% adaptation of the Greek myth,
mhm.
but it's got a lot of the key elements and key characters, key players, and key events, right? It's got Helen and Paris, and it's got why the war starts. It's got the wooden horse. It's got Odysseus, he doesn't take the center role, but he is there. It's got Achilles, like all that stuff. Immortals is a terrible telling of like it's very like Clash of the Titans. Actually, it's very like that, where it's like this is so loosely based where
Mm.
like you've just taken the name of a character and then made up your own myth actually like and at one point you will have the thing that the person is famous for but that won't be what the
Yeah,
plot of the film is.
but it's kind
Like
of
it's terrible telling of the story.
it's the same with those two characters because Theseus is the main character in Immortals, known for
Slaying the
killing,
Minotaur.
slaying the Minotaur, becoming king of
Athens,
Athens.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Perseus, known for killing Medusa.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does he get anything for that? I can't actually remember. You definitely can't turn that into a movie. Yeah,
Well,
so
like
it's
you can turn that into a movie if you really wanted, but like that needs to be the movie. Like the story of Theseus, if you really wanted to turn it into a movie, is basically a horror movie where the Minotaur is the monster and it's eating children, you know what I mean?
mm,
And then it turns into a final showdown between the man and the beast, and then he kills it, almost like Predator kind of a thing.
right.
Like there is a movie there, but you need to ground it down a little bit. But once you start adding gods into it and basically making out that Theseus is the chosen one, and he has to kill a king who's made up as well. It's not King Minos. You know, you're kind of going, who the fuck came up with this? Like, this is a bad telling and a really bad adaptation of a classic Greek myth. So
Huh.
there's like different examples, I suppose, of like where mythology can be adapted well and where mythology is not adapted well. And
Yeah.
and then the question is, does it matter? Like if it's only loosely based anyway, like can a movie be a good movie in and of its own right, even if it gets all the mythology wrong? And I don't know if that's maybe what you were getting at when you were saying, can mythology be adapted to the big screen? And it's not
Yeah.
just
Well,
Greek
well,
myths.
well
Like like an example you mentioned to me off podcast was like you know if you start looking at Egyptian mythology and there was that movie. What the fuck is that called?
Gods of Egypt.
Gods of Egypt. And it's like, is this even? What is this based on?
That
What
is
the fuck is this?
that's a prime example of just Holly. We need a Hollywood this
Right.
because the issue with Egyptian mythology is it's funny enough the myths aren't exactly set in stone, even though
Hey, they're actually
they're
only set in stone, but
yeah,
we've
but
destroyed most of those stones, and we didn't have the written word yet.
no, and we
So
also can't fully decipher the myths, and then some on one wall the myth goes one way, on another wall the myth goes another way, and blah, blah, and then
yeah.
there's
See, the
mistranslations yet
Greek
again.
myths were, and the Norse myths became part of the written word and
Mm,
were reinterpreted. So Greek myths got reinterpreted by the Romans, and of
mm,
course they spread it everywhere they went.
mm-hmm.
And Norse myths got reinterpreted as well and became even
Uh,
later on readapted by monks and everything,
yeah,
the Vikings
like
spread them everywhere they went. So
yeah,
those myths are really well written and accounted for.
yeah, because Anglo-Saxon and Celtic could be very similar to Norse, and then of course you have Lord of the Rings and all the D and Dungeons and Dragons, and you have all those things which
They
where you
all draw from originally the Norse mythology.
yeah, elves and dwarves are Norse, and then but superheroes I think almost pull from Greek more so.
More so. Yeah.
That so either way, these two
Gods
things have
and heroes and demigods and that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
either way
Superpowers.
they've survived in comparison to Egyptian mythology. So yeah, that's a movie that's very Hollywoody.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of my question. Like, can it? Because we even had that movie. Do you remember that movie with Dwayne Johnson playing Hercules?
Yeah, I never saw it. Yeah, yeah. Hercules is always an interesting one. I
Right.
don't. I think even the Hercules TV show didn't adapt Hercules right. You know what I mean? Like everyone has
No,
such a different telling of, or Heracles, as he's originally
he's
called.
supposed to be Heracles. Yeah, yeah.
Son of Hera, even though he's not, but just to
Well, that
appease
was
appease
yeah.
her, right?
That
Like
was yeah, Zeus trying to calm
Zeus's way
Hera
of
down.
going, yeah, yeah. Hera, what if I name him after you? It's like actually that annoys me more.
Yeah, that is
He's going
worse.
around with my name, and he's the
He's not
fucking
even mine.
not even mine. I hate him. I want him dead. But
Uh,
yeah, like there's so many tellings of the Heracles story that are it's like, well, you've just skipped all the like, where are all the labors? Why aren't you doing the 12 labors that he ends up doing? Originally 10, but they become 12 because they claim he cheated with two of them.
all right.
Yeah, his cousin Iolaus helped him with the Hydra, so they say, well, you didn't do that on your own, so it doesn't count.
Oh,
And
interesting.
then the other one, I think it's Athena helps him or gives him a bit of knowledge in terms of getting like the golden apple. He has to get it from a tree, and there's a dragon and something like that. Maybe I'm mixing up. There's definitely another one where I think one of the gods gave him advice anyway on how to do it,
Was
and
the
they.
apples not Atlas? He has to hold the sky for Atlas, and Atlas gets the apples, or is that a different one
I
again?
can't remember. Either way, it's definitely that they claim that he cheated on two, so then he ends up having to do two more.
Very good,
One
very
of
good.
those being to go into the underworld and retrieve Cerberus, and you're kind of like all of these things sound like a great movie, and yet,
Yes,
I don't know if I've ever seen a Heracles movie that calls him that one. Well, okay, if you want to
they
call
all
him
did
Hercules, that's okay. That's the Roman version of it, and I
version.
suppose
Oh
the
yeah.
more commonly known one. But I have never seen a Hercules movie that actually tells that story. And also, like Kratos from God of War,
Yeah.
his backstory is inspired by the backstory of Hercules. This is another thing that is often not put into it, but Hercules had a family,
Mm.
and was it Hera
Oh,
who
actually,
gave
that's
him
it.
a cloud
That
of madness that made him kill his own family, and to
they
repent, he ended up doing these labors.
they do kind of touch on that in the '90s Hercules show,
Okay, okay, yeah,
where Hera does kill his family.
yeah, and
Because
I.
remember she's always just giant eyeballs in the sky. Yeah, yeah,
Yes, and they do. They touch on some of the myths
yeah, yeah.
from in the Hercules
But
show, but again, yeah, there's a lot of like strange additions in that too.
that's then that again becomes my point. Like, can Hollywood ever get these characters? And
Do you think it's just Hollywood? Like you say Hollywood, but like, is it just that like can no one do it?
well, I mean, you're not really going to get Bollywood doing it, are you?
That'd be class though.
Would be class. My
Well,
God, that'd be
Bollywood do
amazing.
actually do, and again, I have no idea if these ones are accurate, but there's plenty of movies actually about the Hindu gods and heroes and stuff like that, like
I'd say I'd imagine they'd
an
be way
actual
more
thing.
protective of it though.
Do you think they would like do it more justice? Like,
Somewhat. I think they definitely slightly what's the embellish the combat sequence for sure.
yeah, you have to.
But I still think that they're going to be pretty like, oh no, no, no,
This is the myth.
this is the myth. This is what happened. Shiva took on his multi-air form. Blah blah blah. We all know that one.
Is there a particular myth you would like to see adapted and accurately?
Um, right.
We've talked about Greek a lot, but I mean, it's not. It doesn't have to be just Greek myths.
Just Greek. Well, yeah, I think like any of them, but I think it'd be really cool to do. I know this sounds bad because, well, we not sound bad, but almost like, especially from my reading of the Norse mythology.
Mm.
But because for me, when that ended, that was such a event, like Avengers Endgame moment of
With what?
Ragnarok and all.
Oh, Ragnarok. Yeah. Okay.
The Ragnarok moment, the all that, like it just felt so epic. But you could do that with all the different myths and legends. Again, not really Egyptian because we don't really know them, but you could do it with the Celtic as well. So I think just get the myths and like you might have to I do understand you have to slightly change the myths. You know, I get that. You might have to
Yeah. Well, it's
slightly.
like the Lord of the Rings. I think some people you'll never please everyone. And
Right.
some people would certainly say that they did not get the adaptation right. But there's a lot of people who would say it's a very good adaptation of the books, even though there's a lot of differences, you know?
Yeah.
Not everything is included. There's a focus on other things. There's some things that it's like, well, for a movie narrative and a movie arc for these characters, it's going to have to kind of work this way. I think, like, taking that approach to adapting any written material is a really respectful way of doing it, where it's like, clearly it's fans, clearly it's done with love. The
Mm.
bones of the story are there, the kind of key events are there. Um, but it's not like, so I would say, to compare to other things, something like Immortals or something like Clash of the Titans, fun popcorn flicks in their own right.
Mm.
But in terms of adaptations, are like Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evils. You know what I mean? You get to a point where you go, well, that's just not even in it. Like that, what the
Yeah.
fuck is that? And things in different orders, and it's like with the Kraken, that's even from a completely different franchise. you know, what are you doing? What's with the robot owl? What's that about? So there's just weird choices, and it's like, look, it works in its own right, but I don't think this should be like, if this is someone's introduction to the myth, and they go, "Oh, I know that myth." It's like, no, you don't. So like, someone watches the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil movies, and it's like, yeah, be fans of those movies if you want. But if you're like, "Oh, I love the Resident Evil games because I saw those films," it's like, no,
Yeah, I love the character Alice, and it's
yeah,
like, good,
and
no,
you're like,
no.
no, you don't, because you don't know anything about those games, because those movies are bad adaptations. They're very loose. Versus like the Lord of the Rings, if someone's like, I love Aragorn, someone who reads a book could also say, I also love Aragorn, but you might love him
Mm.
for completely different reasons. But at least we're on somewhat of the same page. We're talking about the same story, at least.
Yeah. They're both the heirs to the throne of Gondor, like,
Yeah, yeah,
they,
yeah.
they both get on.
So I think that's the approach to any adaptation, I think, where it's like, if you
Mm.
can't be 100% faithful, which there's many reasons why you can't be, I think you could still be respectful of the material that you're adapting, and not just like, well, I just want to do whatever I want, but I kind of needed to attach some sort of IP to it in the hopes of
That's
selling
what I kind of feel like a lot of the more modern adaptations that we've gotten of these mythological stories are just that.
it. Yeah.
We just need an IP to sell the story, or like, wouldn't this kind of be fun and cool? And but it's like, yeah, but like, why are you doing, like, there's no reason to change it. There's no
Hmm.
reason to, like, as you said, Heracles doing the 12 labors. That's a movie. That's a movie right there. Why would you ever change that?
Who the fuck
Um,
is Megan? Isn't that is that her name in the fucking? Is that her name in the animated Disney one? I can't remember. She's not called.
Meg is short for Megara or Megara,
Oh,
which
is
is the
it?
is the first of the Furies. So actually, she
Okay,
is based on a Greek character. Yeah, she's based on a
but
Greek
but
character.
it but is she anything to Hercules in the fucking? I don't remember there being a
Well,
relationship with.
Hades is not even anything to Hercules when it comes to like
Yeah,
the
that was
animated
also
stuff.
a weird choice. And the little fawn guy, and it's like, look, it's all fun. It's a fun movie, but
Yeah,
it is in no way a telling of the Hercules myth at
no,
all.
no, God,
At
no,
all,
no,
at all.
not at all, not at all.
But anyway, Jesus, we're gonna go on about Hercules forever.
But he's one of the characters that's like, he is the
He's
most
key.
famous. He's the
He's the
most
most famous
famous.
Greek hero.
I even nearly, yeah, actually, he's the most famous Greek hero. I was about to say he's the most famous hero, but actually, at this point, it's probably
Nowadays,
Superman.
it's Batman, but
Yeah, but yeah, Batman, Superman.
it's Batman.
It's said in perfect American.
Well, actually, sorry. Interestingly enough, on the whole like DCU thing, like James Gunn has said that Superman isn't do it's doing really well in America, but it's not doing well worldwide. It is
It's
doing
just,
well worldwide, but it's not doing as well as like if you compare
it's
them, right?
right.
He said there's a lot of countries just don't know Superman anymore, and I found that impossible to fathom, right? Because I'm like,
I think I've seen that point. Yeah, and a lot of other people were saying that, they're like,
but
what?
I'm sure he's not pulling that out of his ass. I'm sure he has some kind of metrics, and he might be. I don't think he's referring to fucking Ireland or the UK or anything, like, because we are very close culturally to America.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So he's probably talking about completely different countries, like, that were, and maybe, yeah, maybe they're like, we all know Batman and we all know Spider-Man, but Superman, yeah, don't really know him
Yeah,
anymore. Like the new generation, like they're
the
not really.
guy who just does everything and is lame.
It's like, when was the last time there was a Superman animated series?
It's a long time, long time.
Do you know? So if you're not someone who grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, like when was the last time a kid, under the age of 18 was watching Superman content
Hmm.
apart from the Snyderverse stuff?
Yeah, which
So yeah, it's an interesting point that it's like Superman isn't as, where at one point he was the number one.
hmm.
Like if you think superhero, Superman is the first. Like for me, it still is, and I'm not even the big Superman fan, but it's like if you say superhero, I see Superman.
Yes.
He's the superhero,
Hmm.
and I suppose Hercules is the Greek hero.
Yeah, and they
Even if
just
later on now there's gonna be a whole generation of kids who are like, no, Odysseus is the Greek hero. There's so much content about him. He's gonna become like the Batman of the Greek mythology, or
maybe,
they make more stuff about him.
but it's just interesting about Hercules being that iconic character, and they can't seem to ever do him right. I was like, how? He is actually probably the easiest.
I wonder though, in a even larger conversation on this particular like theme and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I think we have kind of talked about this before in other adaptations too, right? Like the whole
Right.
video games, to movies and stuff. And I wonder, is there an issue with adaptation in general? It's not just adapting particular things, like whether it's mythologies or whether it's video games or whether it's superheroes. Like, is there just an issue with adapting things in general? Because the ones that seem to be adapted well, if we
Hmm.
look across the board, and again, generally speaking, people are going to have different takes and disagreements and all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, the ones that seem to be adapted well are usually adapted by great filmmakers, one.
Hmm.
Like they just know how to make a good fucking movie, full stop. But two, fans who wanted to make it.
Hmm.
Versus adaptations that are maybe, and I don't know the backstory behind every adaptation, but that are maybe picked by someone who forces a director to make it, who kind of, like is almost like, well, we should make a movie of this, but nobody is a fan of it. It's like, but they think other people will be, so we should make it.
Maybe. Well, I remember seeing a point from George R. R. Martin saying that one of the issues when it comes to adapting stuff is that the writers always think that they can do better than the source material.
Yeah, they want to put their own stamp on it, right? They don't want to feel like their job here is redundant.
But their job isn't redundant because their job is
Correct.
to make this big epic digestible in in
100%.
a, in a in a in a certain time frame.
Yeah, they get to work as what I think would be a really interesting process would be okay, I need to edit this down,
Yeah.
but I need to do it cleverly and with skill. Like I need to include all the key stuff and remove, and I need to make hard choices about what to leave out and what to include. And I think it would be a fascinating. It's like the again, like it's. I hate to go on about the Lord of the Rings, but like Philippa Boyens and stuff going on about. It's like the God. We love Tom Bombadil, but do we need him?
Yeah, yeah,
And how
it's a
can we,
tough.
if we take him out, how can we at least hint at him? Maybe if we gave some of his lines to other characters, it's like so that it's very clear that they're still fans of it. They don't
Mm,
hate Tom Bombadil, but they're like, but we also have to make like, how do we make this book into a digestible movie?
mm. And the fact that they had to change around where like, the first one ends with the Battle of Ommenhen, where in the book that's not how it ends. And
Yeah.
like that is a skill in itself to be able
Yes.
to do that. I think a lot of writers can obviously just write something new. It might not be good, but they can all write something new. But to be able to adapt and change and edit even your own work, it would be quite fucking tough and challenging. So,
Especially if you get married to your own work, but
mm,
if others start seeing that there's problems, and even if you're like, but I like it this way, but it's like eventually, if enough people are saying it, it's like, oh, fuck, I gotta listen to them, even though I really don't want to. But it's like,
yeah.
like that. I think anyone who writes probably knows how that feels.
Yeah, so this is the thing where I just think as well, like actually Immortals is a good show as well, of the idea of there's a myth, let's just do our own thing and we'll slot that in the middle.
Yeah,
Uh
and that's not
Clash
even
of
that's not even a good movie.
Clash of the Titans then. Clash of the Titans is fun, it's fun, but it's also it's like that's not.
Again, it's not a good movie. They're stylish and fun, but they're not,
Yeah. Yeah,
good,
they're
and they're
fun.
not good
But
adaptations.
that's a remake of the old movie that wasn't
It
even.
is. So actually, that's interesting because the one you're talking about with Sam Worthington
Yes.
is a faithful adaptation of a movie that is
That's
not a faithful adaptation of the myth.
which is also actually crazy because
It's really gaslighting.
that's an old one, which probably would have been made around the same time as like Jason and the Argonauts.
Right, which I think
Which
is quite a faithful adaptation.
isn't it? I thought he literally got his 50 heroes and they didn't do jack shit but sail a boat to an island that he didn't even
I
need them
mean,
for.
I don't remember most of that movie, but like, I think they had the characters' names right. They had they had, and I don't mean that to be, but sometimes they don't even get that right.
No, no, that's true.
They were going on the quest to get the Golden Fleece, I believe. You know what I mean? Like it was the actual story, but maybe a few embellishments, and certainly they wanted to show off. I can't remember. Is it in that one where they fight a bunch of skeletons?
In
And
that movie, yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, the thing about that is like whether that's in the myth or not, that was someone trying to show off what they could do with special effects at that time.
Hmm.
Those skeletons are really impressive.
Yeah.
Like that scene stuck with me forever. Like it's very well done for the early 1960s.
Yeah. But it is funny in the actual myth. He gets all these heroes, these legendary heroes, to be the Argonauts. They sail across. He gets to the island. He finds Medea, and then she's just the one that helps him get the fleece. He never needed anyone else.
You didn't need those guys, yeah. I
Yeah,
I, I
it
would love a video game adaptation of Jason the Argonauts
would be
that
cool.
does embellish, like it's not,
Mm.
and the hero, it's a turn-based RPG, something
Yep.
like Clear Obscure Expedition 33, and the Greek heroes are and they have different strengths. Like Hercules can take on the tough enemies, and
Mm.
Atlanta is like fast because she's the hunter. And maybe Odysseus is able to sense people's weaknesses and stuff. Like that'd be so fucking cool.
I actually right. So before coming on to this, I did actually start coming up with a video game idea. And I
Yeah.
was him and Han about the idea of the Clair Obscure combat system. Well, the turn-based combat system.
Yes.
Or doing something a little bit like Baldur's Gate or Banner Saga where it's kind of top down.
Hmm.
But it was actually with the Odyssey.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and it's a choice-based game. And
That'd
so
be so cool.
depending on the choices you make depends on how the story would play out.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to play it the exact same way. You could actually get everyone survives. But the way I was even thinking about it was that Odysseus starts as a very buff, debuff character. So he inspires his troops and then he mocks his enemies, right? So he debuffs them.
Yes.
But the more characters Odysseus loses. So I actually even had this idea of like a Paragon Renegade system, but it was called
Amazing.
Inspiring and Wrathful. So the more guys you lose, the more your Wrathful meter builds,
Yeah. Yeah.
which allows you to have more aggressive abilities.
Okay.
So if by the end of the game you're back and you have lost everybody, for the last battle you don't feel so weak as Odysseus
Hmm.
because you're so wrathful. But if you got everyone with you, well, Odysseus doesn't need to be that strong because you have everyone else to do all the fighting for you and stuff. And so I even had that idea
It's an
like
amazing idea for a game. Do you think the Odyssey would adapt better as a video game than it would as a movie? It could certainly
it's
take its time with it more.
yeah, for
Like I'm
sure
trying
it
to
could.
think of, and obviously again, there would have to be a level of embellishments in terms of,
Mm,
inserting enemies to fight beyond just the big events and stuff, right? The
right.
big events being more like boss fights and stuff, but like, when you think about like Dante's Inferno and the way they adapt that into a video game and they treated, each they were looking at like the nine circles of hell as levels. And at the end
Mm.
of each level, there's like a boss fight and that kind of thing, right? I don't mean use this gameplay, by the way, but I just
Oh
mean
yeah,
the way
yeah.
they looked at that and it's like, yeah, could you adapt Dante's Inferno into a movie? Maybe, but maybe it wouldn't be as immersive and as well fleshed out and told as say a video game could go into detail on. And I wonder, is the Odyssey the same? Like, again, saying this, like maybe next year's the Odyssey is going to be the best fucking movie we've seen in years, right?
True.
Maybe. But would it, in terms of adaptations in general, make for a better video game? Because you wouldn't have to cut anything out.
Maybe, but yeah, because it's really weird. Because even if we look at God of War,
Mm.
right, and they took liberties with the myths,
Oh
but
yeah,
there's
they're having fun
still,
with it.
yeah, weirdly enough, it's like I feel like that's like an example of a little bit like Lord of the Rings, I suppose, where when you're looking at movies and how to, it's like there are the changes you can make.
Mm.
You know, it's still really faithful, like Pandora's box. It's still really faithful to the myth. It serves the purpose that it does in the myth.
It's respectful of the myth.
It's absolutely respectful to the myth, but then they put their God of War spin on it, or even the if you take the Aesir of the new movies or new games,
Hmm.
uh, still respectful, but also they're putting their own twist on it
Mm.
to make it fit within the God of War universe, getting that myth and going, okay, well let's tweak it just ever so slightly so it fits into the God of War series, but still that's Thor, that's
Yeah.
Balder, and Zeus is Zeus and Poseidon and all of them. Like they are all that is who they are, and it's like that's literally all you have to do. You just have to take these characters and keep the embodiment of what they are
Hmm.
and put them in, and so don't add in these other characters that don't exist. If you're doing the 12 layers where Heracles, just do that. You know what I
I
mean?
feel
Just
like the God of War route is like almost treating it like the myths are like the comic books. You know, when you take
yeah,
the MCU and stuff, it's like we're not telling the actual story of issue 432,
right.
right? We're not going like literally page for page and literally starting at the beginning and working our way through every single issue we have ever written and every single story we've ever written. But what we are doing is pulling in from key stories and like we're taking, Peter Parker, and Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and his aunt is Aunt May, and his
Mm,
uncle is Uncle Ben, because that is the mythology. And we're
yes.
respecting the mythology, that kind of thing. And I feel like God of War did that, where it's like, okay, we're pulling in from the myths as if it's different issues of different comics and different storylines, and doing that kind of a thing and making it our own thing, but also respecting the lore as it's written.
Mm.
Um, and I feel like Nolan's Odyssey could do that too. Like it could be very respectful in that it's not going to include everything, but it's not going to not include everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Again, I think he is going to be grounded, like the idea of like Cersei is going to drug them. There's going to be a big storm, which would be Poseidon. You know what I mean? But I do think the people are going to be the enemies, and like if he does Polyphemus, it might just be a big
Fucking
barbarous,
dude.
big fucking yeah dude, and maybe he's just missing an eye. Like maybe there's a big scar going down his
Yeah, yeah,
face or something
yeah.
like
Like
that.
there's ways of doing these characters. I mean, he has, and he's proven it time and time again that like he does go for a more grounded thing. But like,
Hmm.
like when it was announced that he was going to do Bane, everyone was like, "How the fuck is that going to work?" But he found a way of making it work within his universe, and
Hmm.
it worked really well.
But also interesting enough, kind of almost reminding a lot of the audiences this is what Bane used to be.
Yeah, so he does his own thing with the mythology, but he is also respectful of the mythology because like the Dark Knight
Yeah,
trilogy, you can
but that's
see again he's pulling in from this like,
yeah.
oh well, that's from the Dark Knight Returns, and that's from Year One, and that's from the Long Halloween, and it's
Yeah.
like very clear where he's pulling them from. So I do feel like it, and his brother is usually a writing partner with him and
Mm.
stuff. I do feel like they're going to adapt the Odyssey respectfully, but maybe not adapt it literally.
I think I'm just more worried. I'm not worried about his production, direction, acting,
Of course.
writing.
Yeah.
That's not the part that I'm worried about.
Hmm.
I'm worried about the editing side
Okay. Yeah.
because of Dunkirk, because of Tenet, because of Oppenheimer. Sometimes their editing got to a point where it's just like,
Yes,
mm,
I feel like you're going out of your way now to make this seem convoluted,
yeah,
and it's not.
yeah.
Now, of those three, I think the one where it works is Dunkirk. I quite like the
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
The trees, like they're running side by side with each other, but they're not actually happening side by side with each other. But it helps with the music that in each of those stories the tension is building. But one of them is in the space of an hour, one of them is in the space of a day. You know, like it's spread out that way. I think Oppenheimer was one where I was like, this is needlessly jump. And I know, okay, so it's they didn't want to do the whole he makes the bomb and then there's a hearing. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that would be kind of a strange two-act structure, I suppose, to the movie. Yeah, I actually yeah. The now that I think about it, I'm like I don't know how else I would have done it, but at this maybe it's just that it was just too long, for what it is. But
Maybe, but I think there's just a moment where it's like it's cutting to him with the bomb, and then it's cutting to him in his own private hearing, and then it's cutting to Robert Downey Jr. in his hearing, and then it's cutting to Robert Downey Jr. behind the scenes talking to Han Solo, because I can't remember the name of the actor's actual name. And it was just like a lot of cuts of scenes all fucking jumped together in
yeah,
that particular moment, and then the music
yeah,
is getting so high you don't know what anyone's saying. And it's just like, whoa, chill. And then of course Tenet was, I think, the first movie where because I remember people were saying about Christopher Nolan, like some of them were thinking that he was a bit pretentious. And I was like, what? No, he's amazing. He's the best thing ever.
yeah,
Then I
yeah,
watched
yeah.
Tenet and went, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the pretentiousness that you were getting. Quite actually a relatively simple story
Hmm.
and overcomplicating this for no
Yeah.
reason
Well,
based on just
Tenet felt like a parody of a Christopher Nolan movie, but it was actually made by Christopher Nolan. Like it's quite funny in a way.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I look at obviously it'll be interesting when we get that first trailer, and I hope we get it soon. What's also interesting though is the excitement for a Nolan project, regardless of what it is, because he has already in some theaters put tickets on sale for the Odyssey,
Oh, there's pre-order already. It's
and,
crazy.
and they sold out, and nobody has seen anything. Bar there was that one picture I think of Matt Damon,
Yeah, I think there's like a picture of
as
two.
Odysseus, and there was and there was a poster.
I think there's like behind the scene as well of the fact that they're all in real outfits and it looks like it's a real set and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and I look all. I think it's going to look great. There's going to be no denying that, but it's going to be just interested to see
It
which direction he goes with it.
it is
That's going to be
slightly
so
it is
fascinating.
slightly unfortunate though that going back to the start of this conversation
Hmm.
with Troy, that they
Yeah,
never did a sequel of it with Sean Bean as Odysseus. That would
I
have
would have
been
loved to have seen him
that would
do.
have been great.
I wonder though, in the context of Troy, how they would have told that story. Because if it was an actual direct sequel, it wouldn't again be grounded. It wouldn't be mythological.
Yeah, well, I suppose be yeah, yeah.
So it would be again. It'd be like storms, and it'd be all that kind of stuff. And in a way, maybe Nolan is doing that.
Hmm. I know,
Um,
but it's just
yeah.
they didn't know of Nolan back in the day,
No, no,
so
of course, no, no, no. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It is interesting that I don't think Troy did very well though,
no, probably not.
and Orlando Bloom hates it.
Really,
He hates not the movie.
he
He
just
hates
hates the.
he hates Paris. He hated that character. He didn't want to do it. His agent kind of. I literally saw it in an interview the other day. His agent kind of encouraged him to take it. Said it would be a really good part to take and a good movie. And like, it's not a movie that bombed or anything like that, but it certainly wasn't like a big Oscar winner movie or anything like that.
Hmm.
Um, but he hated the character of Paris. He was like, I can't stand by him at all. Like he's a absolute coward, and it's kind of hard to get into the mindset of a character that you fundamentally don't see their point of view. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like even
he
like if you're playing a villain and it's like, well, in real life I wouldn't do these villainous things, but I can see why. Like I can see why Thanos
would do what he said. Yeah, the
is
way the
doing
character
what
is
he's
written.
doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
therefore, I can embody it and portray it. But yeah, he's Orlando Bloom just said that he absolutely hated Paris as a character
That's fair. He is
and he's an
as
unlikable character in the movie.
yeah, in the movie he's the least enjoyable character, not specifically Orlando Bloom's performance, but just the character is the least
Hmm.
interesting out of everyone else.
But as a result, I actually think Orlando Bloom is well cast at that particular time in his life. Not that Orlando Bloom is unlikable, but he was
Young
certainly
pretty boy.
yeah, the young pretty boy, and yeah, he certainly does come across as the guy that was being foolish and fucking he caused an awful lot of shit for a lot of people with real consequences because he was acting just a fucking pretty boy, like.
Yeah, it's. I think that in the actual myth, correct me if I'm wrong, was it that he was asked to choose between Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, who was the prettiest, and he chose one of them. I think he might have chose Athena. Could be wrong. Maybe he just chose Aphrodite
I
because
think he chose
everyone will.
Aphrodite, and Aphrodite was like, "I will, for doing that, I will give you like a wish in the future or something like that." And then
Oh, I thought it was
when
one of
he
the other.
sees Helen, he goes, "Make her fall in love with me," basically in the myth.
Oh,
So
I thought it was some. I thought it was one of the other goddesses got really jealous and then went right. Well, Helen's gonna fall in love with you, which is gonna start a fucking war. Take that, you prick.
it
Maybe
could
I'm wrong.
it
Maybe
could
no,
be, and you know what? There's different tellings of the myth. There's
sure, sure.
there's no just one. This is exactly what happened
It
because none of it happened.
sure. It is. It's wacky how in the Odyssey, the start of it is well, the start of the version I was reading, Telemachus goes to Menelaus and Sparta, and like Helen's just there, and it's all like, yeah, we're all back together again. I was like,
Yeah, we're all buddies.
yeah, I was like, I am so surprised you did not kill her for doing what she did.
Do you think, just on that note, actually, right? Even though he's adapting the Odyssey, and when we talk about the way he plays at time and stuff, will he do flashbacks to the War of Troy? And maybe it's haunting Odysseus.
It's
I am now thinking, because he didn't do the story of Troy, but it obviously is the prequel in terms of Odysseus's
mm,
journey. I think he will have flashbacks to Troy.
I actually right. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. The Epic the musical
Yeah,
has probably one of the best openings for the Odyssey.
yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
Fucking
And
brilliant.
maybe they should do that without
A
the
little
singing,
bit,
but maybe they should
a little
just
bit. They should do that. But then the other part is, I'm thinking
so open the movie maybe with like the end of the War of Troy.
that,
That'd be
or
exciting.
that, or in the book at one point, our first introduction to Odysseus in
Mm,
the book is he gets washed up on a random island. He goes to the Lord. The Lord washes him, bathe, like cleans him, clothes him, gives him food, and then the rule of hospitality, which is a big thing within the Odyssey. That's
hmm
why Polyphemus gets punished because he breaks the rule of hospitality and blah blah blah. Most people who break the rules of hospitality end up getting punished in the book.
Right. Yeah.
It's like this. It's like this. It's a rule, but you will get punished if you break it, not necessarily on purpose. It's not like anyone says, "I am punishing you. You broke that rule," but it's like you've broken the laws of destiny or some shit like that. Anyway, so the Lord does the thing, and then he asks what DCC was, and then he starts to tell the story, which I think is another way that Nolan
Yes.
could start the story.
Absolutely, because him washing up on a beach is very Inception.
I'm just thinking he could do the start of Inception again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
and the
could.
Lord is played by Ken Watanabe.
He could do that. That'd be fun class. Maybe not Ken Watanabe. I think that would be a bit strange. It'd be kind of like,
Okay.
wait, did Disney cast this? But I think, yeah. As an actual opening to a
That
movie, it would be a good opening.
be a good way for him to get Michael Caine in it though.
Yes. Let me tell you about hospitality. Yeah. That'd be so good. Uh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see a trailer and see more. But
Yeah.
I suppose in terms of because this is a conversation I feel could like go forever as well, and I'm just wondering like, was there anything else in particular in terms of adapting mythology that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I mean, I could touch on Marvel and Thor, but that's more of a Stanley in the comics sort of thing.
Sure, yeah, that's not the
But
actual Norse Thor, but would you like to
no,
see the myths of Thor brought to like would you prefer if when people said Thor, it became in the pop culture that they actually think of the Norse myth Thor rather than the Marvel Thor? Is that something you would like?
yeah, for sure. Could you imagine? Yeah, it's supposed to the equivalent of Hulk when there was a time when the people went, "Oh, David Banner" and not Bruce Banner. Like, it's almost a time to correct to go. No, this is Thor. He's redhead. He's got a bit of a beer belly. He's a bit of a temperament to him, but he's the hero of the Aesir. But
Yes,
they're
yeah,
all very, which is one of the best things about all the mythological characters is they're all so freaking complicated.
yes,
They're not good, they're not bad, they just are. It's totally dependent on perspective.
and they're complex. They're complex
They're
characters.
complex characters. So yeah, I would love them to do like a retelling of Norse mythology, but stay true to it.
Mm,
Um, because that would be class. And that,
yeah,
yeah, be nice.
yeah. I think that'd be really, really cool. And look at I'm open to. I just love stories. I love adaptations, whether it's video games, movies, TV shows going forward, whatever it's going to be. But yes, I would like more along the lines of Um, say even like, and look at, we can all say it's not a perfect adaptation, but like, I would like more adaptations along the lines of say The Last of Us, where it's like, well, this is very clearly like made, but not every decision do we agree with. And
Mm,
again, it's one of those ones where you say like, oh, the books are better. Like the game is better, the source material is better. There's more in it, but you can also clearly see it's like, oh, this was made by fans.
mm,
And they are trying to at least adapt the story, its main beats, its main characters, the look of it, all that kind of stuff. And that's really what I want to see from adaptations of anything going forward, and mythologies, is crafted with love, treating it with respect, and actually adapting the story, and not being so loose with it to the point of being like, this is it in name only and not actually an adaptation
mm.
of anything. Um, and yeah, I'm excited for the Odyssey next year. I'm excited to see what Nolan does with it. It's one of my favorite Greek myths because there's so much in it,
It's very good.
and it's a great story. It's an iconic story, and it's interesting of all the projects he could be doing, that he's doing that. A sword and sandal epic that you're like, I know he's going to go all in on the sets and the costumes and all that stuff. I think it's all going to look fantastic and look real. I think he's going to film on the ocean with real boats.
Mm.
I think he's going to do all that. The question remains, will he do what we all predict, which he could do incredibly well, and it could be the best movie he's ever made, which is a Nolan take on the Odyssey? Or will he go out of his comfort zone and do a fantasy take on the Odyssey, which would excite me more,
Mm.
even though I would be excited for either. But only because, and it's not me saying I don't want Nolan doing what Nolan does well. It's me saying that, Spielberg does aliens well, but he also does other things well.
Mm.
And sometimes when you see a director kind of go outside their comfort zone, not just in genre, but like, because Nolan is a big fan of movies in general. And just because he's never done fantasy before, and I mean fantasy in the sense of getting outside of reality, obviously, the Dark Knight trilogy, you could argue, is a fantasy. Like, it's,
Well, and in Inception, the idea
yeah,
of
like there's fantastical elements to some of his movies, but he's never really gone for it to the point of like monsters and stuff.
mm.
And part of me would like to see how he would do that.
Yeah, because there's even a whole point when they're in the underworld. How do they tackle that? So yeah, be interesting to see. But this all spawned from the watching of Epic Musical, which I can't wait for you to keep watching and finish that.
And you want to promote it here and tell if anyone hasn't seen it. It's been out for over 6 months, but if anyone hasn't seen it, you're like, people should just watch this. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're like, but I don't like musicals. I'm just like, yeah, but if you liked old '90s, early 2000s Disney movies, you should like this because it's that quality of songs and singing and everything like that. It's not your Hairspray or Grease style musical. Nothing against those. It's good, very famous musicals, but it's more like the Disney ones.
Yeah, definitely. From what I've seen so far, I would agree with that. And I'm sure that that rings true for the rest of it because it's got a style.
Mm,
Like it's got a style of music and a style of singing, and so far, even though the songs are different, there's like moments of different instrumentation. Like one song might have a bit of a rock ballad feel, another song might have more of a Latin American type vibe.
mm.
But there's a true line as well.
Yes.
It's very clearly written by the one person who has a clear vision of what this should sound like.
Hmm.
So yeah, let us know, guys, if you've watched Epic. What do you think of that as an adaptation of a very famous Greek myth? And then in terms of adaptation in general, whether can mythology be adapted to the big screen? Is there good examples of it? We've listed some bad examples. We've listed some kind of good examples, but maybe not completely faithful. Like I think Troy is not a bad adaptation. Whether you like the movie or not is another thing. But
Hmm.
I think it actually adapts the myth quite well, but it doesn't lean into the fantasy of it. Um, do you have any good examples of really good adaptations of myths? Is there myths that you love that you'd love to see adapted, whether it's into a movie, into a video game, into a TV show, whatever it is? Do let us know. Um, this was kind of a very different topic for us, but also
Hmm.
a really fucking cool one and an interesting one, and one that's a little bit out of left field. I don't even know how people are going to find this in the algorithm of YouTube, but if you're maybe, but maybe if you're looking up Epic or the Odyssey, you might come across it. I don't know. But if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you jump down into the comments to share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell for future content. To those of you who have listened to us on audio platforms, you can also touch base with social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X at The Brothers Take, again, to give your take on mythology and adapting it to the big screen. Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. We will be back to talk to you guys next time. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.